really improve your LinkedIn skills. So Gary will be speaking today as well as myself, and we will have our original founding president come speak and give us an introduction. So welcome.
Thank you.
All right, welcome.
Man. Well, hey everybody, I know most everybody in the room, but my name is Jeff Kickle. I am the founder of T-Works here and also the founder of T-Works Toastmasters. 6 years ago we started this club, and it was really, the reason I had for it was I had a whole bunch of entrepreneurs that worked out of here, and I was looking at developing courses and things like that to help business owners get better at what they were doing. And you know, two things that you need to be as a business owner or an entrepreneur is you've got to be able to communicate well, and you need to be a good leader. So I thought about, well, we could create courses on leadership and all of this. And I thought to myself, you know, I always was interested in Toastmasters. Wouldn't it be fun to have a Toastmasters group here? Well, then I started digging into Toastmasters, and I was like, well, it's about communication and about leadership. Why not create a Toastmasters club for here? So that was, like I said, 6 years ago. We started. The funny thing about starting this club was we didn't have a clue what we were doing. There was not a single person that was part of the original club that had ever even been to a Toastmasters meeting. So we didn't even know what to expect. We didn't know the agenda. Basically, they just told us, hey, we need to get you to 20 people, and then you can charter as a Toastmasters club. So we just started meeting here every Friday at this same time. We've met every Friday at this same time for the last 6 years. And the fun part about it was, since we didn't know what we were doing, we just started to do what we thought a Toastmasters club did, because we didn't have anybody guiding us. So what did we do? We just did table topics. We didn't even know how to do the speeches. We didn't have the booklets to tell us, and it was a different world back then, because for those that have been around Toastmasters for a while, we had these booklets, and you went through the booklet, you did 10 speeches, and then you had some of these other things like running the meetings and all that you had to do, but it was the 10 speeches that built that whole program for you, and then you got it. We didn't have the booklets, we didn't know what the speeches were, we didn't know what we were doing, so we just got up and we did table topics every single meeting, and we did that for probably about 3 or 4 months. The funny thing about it is T-Works Toastmasters was known as the best table topics group in the entire Toastmasters region here. We actually had people win a couple of the competitions, like the first year we were a Toastmasters club, and the reason for that is we didn't do anything else but that, so we were really good at it. So fast forward, we've continued to build, we've continued to grow, we survived COVID as an organization. And as a club, we've survived. Now it's time to rebuild and start to build more and more people. So what I'd encourage you to do, and I'm going to come back to Toastmasters because I haven't been around for a while, I would encourage you to find other folks and let's bring them together and let's help people grow in this world. It is a wonderful tool. I've learned to be much better. Plus, you've got some really outstanding speakers that speak professionally in this group that are there to help you. I think the biggest thing about Toastmasters is always the fact it's the most supportive environment that you're ever going to have to become a better speaker. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. I'd like to introduce Gary, who's going to be our first speaker today. Gary is going to talk about building your profile on LinkedIn and give you some tips and some actionable items to improve your presence on LinkedIn.
Well, good morning. The first question that any good speaker wants to know is, what does your audience know, right? So my question is, how many people are fairly familiar with LinkedIn? You're using it on a regular basis, okay? So I have an experienced group of critical people to critique me. No, that's not true. What I am saying is that everybody's a resource in here. So if I don't cover something and I don't know it, just shout your question out, and I'm sure somebody in the group with all the expertise in the world will be able to take us there. So this presentation was put together for a group of salespeople in Houston earlier this year, which fed off of a presentation I did to the Texas Association of Business Brokers about 4 or 5 years ago. And LinkedIn has continued to expand and grow. So we're going to go over a number of parts. The presentation is going to be presented from the standpoint of a salesperson or a sales manager, and then a man is going to come up and look at it from a marketing perspective. So there are two really radical concepts, if you will, because I'm using it to go into a specific geographic and find names, connect with those people, and then hopefully have a conversation at some time and earn their business. Well, if you go out to any sales team or any group and you ask, what's your number one issue? Inevitably, people are going to say, finding more customers. How do I get prospects in the top of my hopper, right? So what we find is there's usually a method or a process. You've got to have a viable product. And then the thing that small businesses do that inevitably creates a problem for them is they don't have a specific target market ID. So we're going to talk about that after we go through the profile thing. And then the very bottom block and the largest block are all the different marketing things that you can do. Some of them are incorporated into LinkedIn and others are outside. So Amanda will address some of that, but primarily we want to talk about LinkedIn as a tool. So one of the things that it's fun, and you see the very top line, is that on a level, LinkedIn is free. How many people will come to you and say, I got something for you and it's free, and there are no strings attached? Well, we know almost in everything there's strings attached. So there's a little string at LinkedIn, is the level of profile or target market ID is limited until you buy their professional level of services. But you can do a great deal with LinkedIn and not pay a penny for it. So what we want to do, of course, is get yourself to the point where you are visible and available to your target market ID. And so that means posting, making connections with people, commenting on their posts. So you can go networking on LinkedIn without ever leaving your cozy little office, that sort of thing. So there are all kinds of demographics, and when you get into the depths of looking at your parameters, you'll see they have it broken into at least 20 or 25 different categories. And we'll show you just a little bit about how that works. But if you buy the professional version, you can go ever deeper. And that's really handy, because what LinkedIn does for you is that once you get that demographic built and you have a finite number of people in this database, they'll continue to search for people that have similar titles and experience, if you will. Now, number one, if you go to anybody's LinkedIn seminar, and ours is going to be no different, build yourself a customer-centric profile. People don't care, where you went to vacation, how big of a bash you caught, where you're going next week and all that kind of good stuff. Or I grew up in Austin and I went to Austin. No, you didn't go to, where'd you go, Dale? McCallum High School. I'm a son of the orange and white and all that kind of good stuff. Quite frankly, they don't care. They want to know what you can do for them. So what you want is a viable background. If you use the LinkedIn background, they're going to mark amateur by your name very quickly. You don't want a picture of you with your bass that you caught, or you and your dog, or you see the guys that their arms obviously around a date and they've clipped the date off and it's them, and you see their arms sticking out, all that. Put a professional profile picture up there. All right, so where's the gold? We know that there are levels of connections, and if you're a first level connection and you go back and if you see, well, you can't see it on this particular slide, but there's a profile link in by anybody that you have a first level connection in, and then you can get their email address, their phone number. If you have it listed, you can tell who they're working for by looking at their profile and things of that nature. Well, that's the first aspect of qualification, if you will. Are they really a viable prospect, or are they simply going to be a friend, if you will? So it's really pretty neat because you can start putting all your links on here. Remember, this is your worldwide profile. There are 738 million people who are signed into LinkedIn, and if you do the math, that's approximately 9% of the world's population. So pretty good demographic there, right? Now, and probably 60% of those folks are in the United States, something like that. I don't think my numbers are right there. Anyway, so once you start building out your profile, there's at least 7 or 8 different things. And as you get experience and you get older, it's hard to put everything on 1 page or 2 pages. Well, you can get like 10 pages on LinkedIn, and somebody's interested in you. You come to a meeting or a network meeting and you go, well, who's this guy, Scott Carley? He says he's the change energizer. What do I know about him? So you go in there and you look at Scott and you find his background, what he's doing, his topics, how to get in touch with him, what his qualifications are, his references and things of that nature. And you don't have to worry about mailing somebody a resume or making sure it gets in their hands. It's there. So one of the top ones is what services you provide. LinkedIn has categories. You don't get to go ad lib, if you will. And so I have 5 categories here of things that LinkedIn chose for me. And I said, well, that's correct. I'll go there. And then the about. And what I do, now I apologize. Obviously, these are all screen clips and not as large as we would like. But Marketing 101, if you look at the top line there, there's a link back to a video. But my line 1 says, TrueCon Communications helps business owners and sales managers grow their business by delivering insightful keynote speeches and a deep training that helps build trust and productivity, essentially. So very quickly, you have the name of your company, what you do. So you have a feature, if you will. You have an advantage. The advantage is what you do. And then the benefit is how it helps your client. So we're all about growing our business, right? That's the goal. Now, experience. So you go back in and you say, well, what's a resume? Well, I graduated from college in the mid-70s. I went to work for this office supply company. Then I transitioned, got into sales for 3M. All those histories that you have and your successes are on here. So people can look through and they go, okay, this guy just got into this business about 6 months ago and he has absolutely no experience in sales and marketing, but now he's marketing himself as a guru. Well, I don't think that's probably true. So those are the things that you set people up and you say, I'm the person you want to go to because I do have this depth of experience. And then education and further things about what would qualify you, all built into your situation there. Training, the training that you have attended, even post-college, who knows how many certificates and things of that nature that you've gone to that makes sense for your customer to see, right? So you might say, well, I went to dog training, but unless you're in the dog training business, it doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, licenses and certifications. All it says in mine, and I will tell you, I'm not trying to be an egotist here. I just got easily permission from the guy that has this site that, what have you done in the past that relates to the topic or the area of expertise you're presenting. So I have a number of things that no longer distinctly apply, but I have 2 different licenses in insurance, which are now, gone away, mortgage loan officer, sales negotiations, and things of that nature. So there are a number of those, and you can put those in your resume. What have you volunteered for? Okay, we're living in a world, and this is admirable, if you will. The millennials want to know how you're contributing, how you're giving back to the community. Are you actually funding communities? Are you giving your time and effort? And so list those, that they have value to people that may be your prospects. And then there's 2 different areas of skill. So there's a skill pull down, and you have all these categories. I think they have like 100 different skill sets, and you can literally go in there and click and say, I know Bill Heastan, and Bill has a background in financial advising, and so I would click and say Bill is in my opinion, a certified financial planner, and so that means to the world you're showing those. And now that's an easy, because you can just click, click, click all day long. The real thing that makes sense is that you get a recommendation from somebody you know. And the way that works is if you have a first level connection, let's just say that you gave a presentation. Jim Comer's an expert in aging. He's written a book. And so Jim gives a presentation to a group of, mid-aged people about their parents and says, it'd be great. Would you mind connecting me with me on LinkedIn and writing me a recommendation? So you actually send them a little note, and it's all in the pre-planned platform of LinkedIn, and say, would you mind writing me a recommendation? Then you can put some custom stuff in there about the speech you heard me give, 2 weeks ago, that sort of thing. So those are super handy. Things that you have written and published, you can write those up. There are a thing called SlideShare in LinkedIn that you can do that will allow you to showcase your writing skills, or you can write something. For example, if you have a Gmail account, there's a thing called Blogger in there. And every time you write a blog or an article, it creates a unique URL. So you can use that in your marketing tools and certainly go back and post it into LinkedIn. Languages, I am marginally proficient in Espanol. There's posible no poste aquí. Probably shouldn't put that here based on my superior Spanish skills, but I do. One of these days I'm going to get a bigger vocabulary. Organizations, and Toastmasters. I've been active on and off since the early 90s. You can put that on your profile. Now, there's a bit of redundancy here because some people are visual learners, some people are, auditory, some people read. So this was, again, put together for a group of salespeople that had marginal experience in LinkedIn. So we wrote some things out. But it's good to know your LinkedIn URL. Some people will put this in their salutation, in their email, so that you go, this Steve English guy just shot me an email. I haven't met him before, but look, he's got a link to his LinkedIn profile. I'd like to know more about Steve before I call him back. So it's just a real handy tool. Okay, make sure you fill out what you're due, and then, like I say, we want to make sure that people understand what your deliverables are. The world's worst sin of a salesperson, if you will, is just to say, I'm in the carpet and flooring business. I provide carpet and flooring, and by the way, we do some contracting. And they go, okay, so Dale, I looked in the yellow pages, the e-yellow pages, and there's 120 other flooring companies here. Okay, why should I do business with you? And that's what you're telling your prospects when they go on your LinkedIn profile. Okay, so let's go back and we'll look at, now, admirable picture of yours truly, but the reason I did this is because when you post, let's just say I have 11,000 or 10,600, something. It's either, I think it's 11,600 now. Only a fraction of those people are looking at your LinkedIn profile at any given day. If you notice in the lower left-hand corner, it tells you how many impressions there were of when you posted this thing. If you have a moving, talking video, you'll typically get 3 to 4 times the number of impressions that you will versus if you just put a photo up. If there's something about movement that attracts the human eye, and then there's 2 ways to do this. If you have it uploaded into YouTube, you can put the link in there, and then they have to click on it, so they have to recognize that it's a video. However, if you upload it from your hard drive, it takes longer. It's kind of like loading a YouTube up. Then they will see you actually talking. And all they have to do is click on the icon that goes audio, and they'll hear you talking. So it's interesting. Jim does these, and he's doing the Jim thing, and then I go, I want to hear what Jim's saying, so you click on there. So it's easy, and I'm sure he gets more views, that sort of thing. As you well know, when you connect with someone, so because you're familiar with this, you get 2 ways of messaging somebody. The message that you send to the individual will go to their email, it will also go into a messaging column in LinkedIn. So they're going to get dinged a couple of different ways, and then when they open up their LinkedIn profile, they're going to see a thing that says you have a message, and it actually supersedes everything on the screen. So if Scott and I have a little communication via LinkedIn, I say, hey, great ad, Scott, I really enjoyed what you had to say, et cetera, that's the first thing he's going to see. Now, what will happen as you make connections, you're actually going to see a lot of people solicit you for business and want to connect, and then the first thing they say is, we want to have a personal meeting. So Amanda's going to talk a little bit about that, but that's not the way to win hearts and minds, is to immediately approach somebody right there. Okay, so let's get down to the nuts and bolts. Above your profile picture, you'll see a search box, and that search box is the key to finding people, organization, groups, and things of that nature. So if we go back, and I just threw in real estate agents, and in my profile, the number of people that have logged in, created an account in LinkedIn, there are only 1,400,000 real estate agents. Okay. However, there's a way you can segment that down. If you look in the right-hand column, that's when you begin to segment your, market IDs. So I don't want my first level connections because I already have those folks in my database, so to speak. I want seconds and thirds, and then down at the very bottom, I've checked off Austin. Now, if we continue to scroll down, you're going to find a number of demographics. So if you went to University of Texas, and you want only real estate agents who went to UT, you can select UT. You can select other aspects of the demographics. However, if you really want to do great detail, if you buy the paid version, there are 12 additional target market IDs that you can dig into. So if you're using LinkedIn as your primary prospecting tool, that investment is probably well worth your time. Okay, once again, we start looking at different people, and not only can you do a category, but you can do a subcategory. So I stood real estate brokers. I chose Austin, Texas, and I got 114 results of the people who have a LinkedIn profile in Austin, Texas. And then what I will do, you'll see the first one that pulls up are all first level connections with yours truly. If I have seconds and thirds in there and my market is brokers, then I'm going to go in and ask them for a connection. Now, the connection acceptance level has declined over the years. Back a few years ago, I was getting 40 to 50% of the people that I asked for a connection that actually would connect. It's declined now to 10 to 20% because a lot of people are using it for exactly what we're talking about, and people don't really want to be solicited. But that's the first level of culling, if you will, is the people that want to connect with Amanda Smith are the people who are more likely to engage in a conversation and continue that and possibly buy from her company. All right, company search. Once again, we're looking for somebody at Dell Computer, for example, and I only know one person at Dell, and they're kind of way off on the fringe level. But if I opened up Dell, there are probably 400-600 people at least that work for Dell. Then I can go in and go to their website and say connected people who worked at Dell, and then I can go in and look for titles and say, oh, this person may be a potential for my product category, and select those folks. As you go along and you want to expand your visibility, there are groups that you can join. Here are some that I've joined over the years, and they have literally tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people in those groups. So a different place for you to post and things of that nature. Okay, when you start getting acceptances and you're going to go to the left-hand side of your profile, you'll be able to take a look at how many people you've actually connected with and scroll down. So not only can you scroll down individually like this, but you can put, for example, Dell people who are now #1 connections, and you can pull up that profile, and maybe I've got 50 people at Dell that I can look at and decide how I'm going to potentially get in contact with them or add them to my CRM or send them a message. Yes, sir, Scott.
Does the free connection limit how much you can search and connect to?
No, it limits the number of people that you can actually petition for a connection. But if you've got them in your database or your profile, like I say, you saw there are 1,400,000 agents, real estate agents listed. So it's very, very broad. Of course, logistically, you just can't get there. So what are we talking about as an investment? A little over $1,000 to get to the professional level. And I'm personally finding it out to be a great value because as salespeople and marketers, you can burn through a lot of time talking to the wrong people. Don't do that. It's just a killer. You can spend your 40 or 45 hours and come out Friday afternoon being exhausted and have gotten zilch because you were trying to attempt to talk to the wrong folks. Okay. There's an organic search and the purposeful search. Some people put a lot of postings up and then simply look for the people that want to connect with them. And you'll see random people will get in touch with you. Now, 75% of the time, there are other sales folks that want to possibly search you out as a prospect. Other times, they just want to connect, or they're good natured, or they're in industry. For me, I'm a lot more purposeful about going after people. Okay, so if you look at your dashboard, if you will, and you say, okay, I would love to be out networking more, but when I do that, it's taking me away from my office productivity time. Well, you can do a lot of prospecting on LinkedIn. So if you look at home network jobs messaging, now I'm not in the jobs arena. I'm not searching and I'm not hiring people. However, if I message somebody, and let's just say that I just met David a few weeks ago, and maybe we have a common interest, and we're going to take up tennis again because we haven't done it in 20 years. Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then we can message each other back and forth, and you can go back in and take a look at that. If you look to the right in notifications, if somebody has a birthday or a job anniversary or something of note, it may pop up in there, or if you post something, it'll pop up and you can see the number of people that viewed your post. And then I can go back in and I see that Jim Comer viewed my post and made a comment that I'm going to go back and say, Jim, appreciate you taking a look at the comment. Would you please do me a favor and fill in the blanks, whatever it may be. You should start this conversation. Or we find out, there's somebody who has a common interest, or you went to the same school, things of that nature. So you can do a lot of networking through this platform without ever leaving your seat. I think Mr. English could give us a 20-minute dissertation on Facebook networking because he does a really good job of it. And I see him there all the time, that sort of thing. So you feel like you know Steve, even though I really don't. Scott.
I have some clients who only will communicate with me through LinkedIn messaging.
Okay.
They won't do email, they won't hardly call, but they will do it through LinkedIn messaging. Isn't that weird?
Very insightful because, you're hitting them two ways. It's showing up in their email, and then when they sign in to LinkedIn, it's popping up. So it's like, hey, will you talk to me right now, please? And then it says, can we connect to have a conversation this afternoon at 3 o'clock? And, no, but they tried. All right, the way this works, the gold is in this contact information, right? So we want to export those contacts. Let's just say you made 50 connection requests this week and you got 18 people that said, yes, I'll connect with you. Then you can go back. The painful way is to connect on their profile and pull down their contact information and literally transfer that into a database. Sometimes it's Excel. I use Constant Contact, and they have a file that you fill out. Then I transfer that information into my CRM. So it's a painful process. There are some systems out there that will allow you to do this automatically. The one I use is Dux, D-U-X, Soup, and they will go back, and once you pull up a profile, they'll survey and pull out their name, their contact information, their email. And that's the key for me. If I can get an email that I can get them in my CRM, then I have a drip campaign going on. So some of you are probably on my system, and I send something out almost every week. Not inevitably, but almost. Okay, so there are ways that you can qualify: go back and review their website, ask them for a response or send them a link, and then monitor your account for acceptances all the time. Otherwise, you're just trying to be friends. I knew a horse trader in Fort Worth one time, and he was a jokester in a way, but he'd go, I'm in business just to make friends. I don't care one way or the other. Of course, that was the biggest lie he ever told us, but it was funny when he said it every week. We'd see. So we want to engage. So bottom line on my segment of the presentation is I'm providing this as a sales tool to connect with people in my target market ID, engage with them, be visible, and then finally, hopefully, engage as a potential supplier to prospect, that sort of thing. There's a whole other philosophy out there, and we have somebody who's much more adept at doing this thing than yours truly. That's Amanda. The last thing I will tell you, because I put the slides together this week, I added to them. If you have a Gmail account, there's a blogger capability there, and as I mentioned early, if you can either copy or write your own text, and Amanda's going to get into the value of text, then you can set this up as an individual URL in your blogger account and go back and use that. So you can post it in LinkedIn. It'll pull up not only the link and abbreviate it so it looks very professional, it'll pull up the photo that you provided on your blogger, and all you have to do is make a little comment. I'm in the sales training, public speaking, and sales analysis business, so they get that context. But then what you're posting is what they want to hear and read, right? Okay, so I'm going to steal Amanda's thunder if I don't be quiet. So I'm going to bring her up and hand her the clicker. Welcome,
Thank
Amanda
you.
Smith.
All right, well, how many of you have a massive marketing team to help you with all of your marketing? 0. Oh, okay, maybe 1. Well, a little bit about my background. I am the marketing manager at Radiation Detection Company. We're a local business in Georgetown, but my background is actually in art. I studied at Pepperdine University, and I have a studio art degree, and I have just a passion for everything that is visual. So marketing is a great fit for me, and I have a lot of the content that I'm going to share with you today is actually straight from LinkedIn. So you are getting the juiciest information from the source. So I have engaged with LinkedIn and had private one-on-one conversations with their team to understand how do we build up our marketing engine. So a little bit about the background of the company that I work for. We've been around for 70 years and have never had a marketing department up until this last year. So everything that we're building right now is from scratch. So there's a lot of work to do, and I needed a partnership with LinkedIn to say, how do we make this thing work? So first off, what I want to talk about, we did cover why LinkedIn. It's a great way to target our audience. We have information on this platform that we don't have on any other platform. So we can really get specific on who we're targeting. I want to talk a little bit about the brand and demand balance as part 1, but then also give you some tips and tricks on